On July 31st, the head of the political bureau of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, was killed in Tehran. Haniyeh visited the capital of Iran specifically to participate in the inauguration ceremony of the elected president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian. The Iranian side, Hamas, the pro-Iranian Lebanese Shiite paramilitary organization Hezbollah, and Turkey blamed Israel for the liquidation of Haniyeh. If this is true, then the liquidation of one of the oldest founding members of Hamas was, on the one hand, another demonstration of the capabilities of Israeli intelligence and the Israeli state as a whole, and on the other, a slap in the face to Iran, which was unable to ensure the safety of a high-ranking guest whom the enemy is liquidating in its capital. The liquidation of Haniyeh was one of the episodes of the ongoing escalation of the conflict between Hamas and therefore Palestine on the one hand and Israel on the other since October 7th of the previous year. The Palestinian-Israeli and in a broader sense the Arab-Israeli conflict did not start yesterday and will not end tomorrow. On May 14, 1948, the leading and outstanding figures of the Jewish people, led by David Ben-Gurion, proclaimed the creation of the State of Israel. In the same year, the First Arab-Israeli War began. This was followed by the declaration of the war on Israel by neighboring Arab countries. It was at this time that the mass exodus of Jews from Arab countries occurred, where against the backdrop of the outbreak of war against ethnic Jews, a negative attitude, to put it mildly, began to form. This first war, which in Israel is called the War of Independence and in Arab countries also logically the catastrophe, ended the following year with the signing of a peace treaty with Syria. The full-scale war eventually turned into guerrilla war. The guerrillas continued to be supported by Egypt, Jordan and Syria. In 1956-1957, after Egypt nationalized the Suez Canal, a number of foreign powers unleashed an aggressive war against the country of the pyramids. The main perpetrators of the aggression were Great Britain and France. Israel also took part in the conflict, pursuing goals that corresponded to its own national interests. It's interesting that the war resulted in the actual victory of Egypt, the withdrawal of foreign forces from the region, and the victory of Israel, which received the corresponding geopolitical preferences. In June 1967, the Six-Day War took place. Egypt, Jordan, Syria and new countries in which a feeling of pan-Arab solidarity suddenly awoke. Iraq and Algeria took up arms against Israel. The result of this new aggression of Arab countries against Israel was the loss of the Golan Heights by Syria, the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip by Egypt, and the west bank of the Jordan River by Jordan. Iraq and Algeria did not lose any territory since they do not border Israel. In the same year, a one-on-one war began between Egypt and Syria. The fact is that Gamal Abdel Nasser tried to return the Sinai Peninsula. A month after the end of the Six-Day War, he decided to achieve the defeat of Israel by his own efforts outside the pan-Arab coalition. Thus began a war of attrition, which would end without any territorial changes, with the signing of a peace agreement in 1970. In October 1973, another conflict occurred between Israel and a coalition of Arab states, which went down in history as the Yom Kippur War. The Jews celebrated the holiday of purification, Yom Kippur. It was on this sacred Jewish Day of Atonement, October 6th and 7th, that the Arab coalition attacked Israeli position. The cause of the new conflict was the desire of Egypt, Syria and Jordan to regain previously lost territories. This time Iraq joined them. This time, in addition to the above, Israel was confronted by more than 10 states such as Pakistan, Morocco, Cuba and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. If the first two somehow showed Muslim and Arab solidarity, being at a decent distance from the geography of the war, then the last two can be called exotic for the Middle East region, although their participation in the conflict is also understandable. For their part, demonstrated class and socialist solidarity since revolutions were rapidly winning in the Arab republics, monarchies were being overthrown and the power of people's democracy was being established, which however did not prevent their leaders from remaining in power without elections or real elections for the next new decades after the overthrow of the long-standing fermented monarchy. Israel wins and consolidates its previously acquired positions. In September 1978, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat and Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin, with the participation of the 39th United States President Jimmy Carter, signed the Camp David Accords, thereby ending the long-term conflict that had lasted since the foundation of Israel. Israel returned the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, once again recognizing the rights of the Palestinians. It was within the framework of the Camp David Accords that autonomy was secured for the Palestinians and the final resolution of the issue of their future political status. The idea of creating a Palestinian police became a pretext for Fatah and Hamas to begin laying claim to this role. A few years later, in 1982, Israel withdrew all its troops and settlers from the Sinai Peninsula. A year earlier, the Muslim Brotherhood had assassinated Egyptian President Anwar Sadat at a military parade in Cairo. One of the main accusations against him was the peace he had signed at Camp David. After withdrawing its troops and settlers from the Sinai Peninsula, Israel invaded Lebanon in June 1982. The reason was the constant shelling of the northern regions of Israel by various groups. Having restored order in these regions and withdrawn the Islamist organizations, the Israeli command handed over power in these regions to the Christian Lebanese militia and left Lebanon. However, the Iranian seed had already been sown on Lebanese soil in the form of a proxy force of Tehran, in the form of the Hezbollah organization. The latter would eventually take military power in all of Lebanon. On October 26, 1994, a peace treaty was signed between Israel and Jordan. The last large-scale clash between Israel and one of the representatives of the Arab-ruled Lebanon was the Second Lebanese War of 2006. This new war lasted 34 days, considering what is happening today, as well as the constant threats to Israel from the north. The war remained inconclusive. After that, relations with a number of Arab countries and with the Palestinians remained tense. Fuel was added to the fire by the Palestine Liberation Organization led by Yasser Arafat and then by Hamas. Israel has been providing the population of the Gaza Strip with electricity, water, heat and everything necessary for a very long time. But the Hamas organization, which effectively seized power in the Gaza Strip in the course of the confrontation with Fatah, apparently thought that all this was unimportant and attacked the borders of Israel on the anniversary of the start of the Yom Kippur War. Israel responded to the murders and kidnappings of hundreds of its citizens by shelling and destroying Hamas infrastructure. Official Jerusalem has already stated that the special operation in the Gaza Strip will end with the complete eradication of the ideology and structure of Hamas. There is no end in sight to the hatred in the region.